Hi, I'm Randa with Prairie Quilt. We had seen some really simple patterns lately on the marketplace, and we decided that we would like to even simplify them more. The modern look quilts are very sparse as far as number of blocks usually. So this is actually a really cute little quilt that we did with just 2 pieces of fabric. And what we did was we fused this fabric onto the main fabric. I'm going to show you how to do that today. This one was a 2-yard cut, so it's a nice large size quilt. And then I just took a 2-yard cut and slit it in half so that I would have this to be about 50% of what this is, maybe a little bit less. So to start that, I'm going to show you with a small quilt today that I cut 1 1/4 yards. And this is my focus fabric. And this is my little addition fabric to it. Okay, I'm going to use a fusible called Misty Fuse, and I've used that in some of my other videos too. It is very light and web-like. I'm just going to take this and we're going to fold it over so that we can cut it. And to determine how wide we're going to cut that, we need to see what we're going to cut the curve with. So the curve that I'm cutting today is with the Leaves Galore ruler. Now there's 3 different sizes of rulers. On the big quilt that I used a large one. This one happens to be the small one. And so what we're going to do is figure out how large of a piece of Misty Fuse we need. So I'm just going to lay this on here, and I'm using the big curvy side, not the tighter, smaller curve. And this looks like that we can get that easily out of 2 inches, maybe 2.5. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to cut this at 3 inches. Now I'm going to lay this on my iron. And put it wrong side up. Here's my little piece of Misty Fuse. It's almost so light you can't see it, isn't it? And I'm just going to lay it right close to that edge. Now, Misty Fuse is a type of fusible that doesn't have any paper on it. So I'm going to take a pressing sheet, and they now have these really nice big pressing sheets out, so that I can actually lay this under there and fold this on top. This is also a little bit thinner sheet. To me, it lets it fuse a little bit faster. I'm going to wait till that cools for a second before I lift it off of there. Okay, once the Misty Fuse has cooled down from the iron, then you can move your pressing cloth and your pressing sheet. This really saves on your ironing board to have a nice sheet like this on the top and the bottom. Your ironing board doesn't get nearly as messy. So once your pressing cloth is cool, then you're just going to pull it away, and you have your your Misty Fuse on this side. I'm going to set that away now in the iron. Now what we're going to do is mark on this piece where we want to have that line butt up. So I'm thinking about we cut that at 3 inches, didn't we? I'm thinking about 3 inches exactly. I'm going to fold this over. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to mark my large piece of fabric where I want to lay the line. So I'm just going to take a ruler and put it at 3 inches. And I'm going to mark with a Frixion pen so it'll go away once it gets hot. And mark it all the way down. Now you do have to remember that this Frixion pen will go away when the heat is put on it. So we want to make sure that we are right where we need to be when we lay this piece on it. What I'm doing now is I'm marking a 1.5 inch strip, which will show where the center of the oval is on the ruler that I want to follow. Turn it around this way. And this is my large curve. That's what I'm going to put it on. So I'm going to lay this oval. See the oval and the straight line here? That straight line's what I'm going to lay on the line. And once you get that all ready, then you're just going to take a rotary cutter and follow that curve. And I always like to use a small rotary cutter for these tight little curves. Much harder to do if you're using a big one. So now we've got our leaf, our edge cut with the Leaves Galore ruler. And we're ready to put it on our piece of fabric. We're going to overlap this where the line is, which is about a 3 inch piece. And we're just going to lay that line. Do you see that line, how it butts up? And that gives you enough on this side so you won't go over your fusible. We're going to go back to the iron and iron that on. Now remember what I said about that line will go away. So you want to make sure you've got it where you need it before you press. I don't need to use my pressing cloth on this because all of the fusible is gone now that I've got that edge on it. Doesn't take long to put this on with the iron. Check each of your fusibles. They're all different, so check them to make sure how long you need that iron on. I like to just put a little bit of best press starch too, because next we're going to do is we're going to applique the curve, and the best press starch will give you a little bit more sturdiness to your fabric. Let's go to the sewing machine. I'm going to use this 12 weight thread because it's a little bit heavier, and I'd like this applique to show, this applique thread. On the other one, I just used a nylon thread because I really didn't feel like I needed to add any more embellishment to it. And since I'm doing 12 weight thread, I'm going to use a top stitch 90 needle. I'll go to an applique stitch. And I want one that will be right in the center. That one isn't it, so I'll go to number 8. And as you can see on the screen, you can make it wider or narrower. I happen to like the default on this stitch, which is 2.5 width and length. And the stitch is made so that you can flip the stitch, mirror image it, because I want the stitching to be here and to bite into the top fabric. This is also greatly beneficial if you use your needle down in that stitch. And I'm not using any stabilizer underneath. The machine that I happen to be using is really nice to where I don't have to have that under this if I have fusible. I've got 2 layers of fabric and I've starched it pretty well. So every time the needle stops, the presser foot lifts up and I am able to finish the curve. Okay, your sweet little baby quilt made in literally less than an hour.